All right. Let's get started. Here we go. Let's jump straight in. Hi, welcome to the show, everybody. It's Hal Sparks, mega worldwide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show, etc., etc., etc. Patreon.com/Hal Sparks. Next Friday, a week from this Friday, we've got a new stand-up show for you that I'm going to be performing. It's me by myself. It's a rhetorical art, I will say. And at Flappers, all our Patreon people and our get a free comedy show every month on top of the joy of supporting the show and making it exist. Very exciting. So, lots to talk about today, including, and I would argue especially, the inevitable clash of MAGA that I called, I don't know how many months ago when I first started, you could arguably trace this back, you could trace this back to when Trump started making certain promises on the campaign trail. And
man, I'm tired of being right.
Exactly. I am so used to being right. I think I'm 99.5 now, 99.5% right. I think it's pretty, believe me, I'm getting straight A's in this course. And only a couple of times I've been off, and both of those times, there's a recount on the last time I was off, so take that with a grain of salt as well. I may have been right after all. One of my niece down south just lost her son. Oh my God, Alex. Sorry, 1 second. That scrolled by too fast for me to see it. Just lost her son, Alex. Motorcycle accident. Any relation? No, no direct relation. But I'm sorry to hear that. And not just because I think all of the major serial killers either have a Sparks in their victim list or another relative of mine. It's Bundy, Gacy, not Dahmer, because he didn't really. His were shocking, but not high in volume. Any of the ones with high volume, obviously, we joined in with the crowd, I guess. Yes, I was wrong about the presidential election, or maybe I wasn't. That's the point. There's a very strong chance that I wasn't, actually, and that there was a bunch of Elon Musk shenanigans going on, but we won't figure that out, and we won't be able to find that out until maggots turn on Trump and don't show up next time, and we get some Democrats in the House and in the Senate, and all the people who stayed home and allowed the vote to be within the margin, either turn up and vote or shut the fuck up. And that's why I am being very direct these days. This show is not about a social movement or a crowd pleasing, the architecture of friendships. It is about electing Democrats. Even the ones that don't go far enough for me, it's about electing those two. Because that's the only way we're going to fix what's broken, establish change, and maintain that change. Sorry. Until we have 60-40 in the Senate and 60% of the House, nobody has a fucking thing to say about a single Democrat that is elected to office. Not a thing. Other than that, I have no opinion. Now, meanwhile, Trump is enjoying the power of the purity test right now. And if you want to see a movement that apparently gave Trump the last election and put this idiot in office in the first time, this massive, great movement of politics, you want to see it collapse in on itself. You know what's actually doing it? You know what's actually destroying this party? A purity test of their own making. Do you want to see how bad of a strategy this is? That's what we're seeing play out, and especially in this business. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Turd Cruz, a.k.a. Bulverine, a.k.a. Texas's idea of masculinity. I don't know how that happened. Talking to Tucker Carlson, another, like a trust fund baby who views himself as some sort of working class hero, like he could ever understand. How do you think David Hogg should step down? No, I don't think so. I think he should come to his senses and contribute. He doesn't have to go. He can learn on the job. Nothing wrong with that. He's a good person. I would argue that He wants to do the right thing. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But spending $20 million chasing down Democrats that are already in office is fucking stupid. It is stupid. It is. What's the phrase I'm looking for? Hold on. I think I have it right here. It's
Dum 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 stupid dumb silly stupid dumb dumb.
Yeah, it's dumb. It's to quote Jim Carrey, it would be counterproductive. So yeah, it's silly. Now I have gone into this this thing with him, and let me show you something. So on Tucker Carlson's show, he has little chapter markers. And you see this where you scroll along the bottom? Boy, I wish we had those nice little chapter markers on my show after the fact. Do we? I don't think so. It's complicated. Anyways, I clicked the thing a long time ago that was supposed to give me automatic chapter markers, but I don't think it can make sense of where I am or what I'm talking about. Anyways, you'll see, like, to what extent is the U.S. government influenced by foreign governments? This is a big chunk right here. Then, is the Israel of the Bible the same as the current Israeli government? Like, I don't know what this is. Tucker's idea of what their conversation was about. How does funding Israel benefit the U.S.? Okay, so these would be, you could argue, questions he may have asked or topics they covered, but it's not necessarily adversarial. Watch what happens when we get down here. Right after, are there Iranian assassins trying to kill Trump? When he gets to this point, it says, Cruz knows nothing about Iran and wants to destroy it anyways. The next one, Cruz refuses to apologize for supporting the disastrous Ukraine-Russia war. Then, why does Cruz think Zelensky is a hero? Is Russia an enemy of the U.S.? Big long one. Is America the moral authority? Right. This is you could track. This is, and again, I don't want anybody to get confused and think that Tucker Carlson's actually a peacenik or is actually believing anything that he's selling. The dude has got fish hooks in his nutsack and the fishing line goes all the way to Russia. And anytime he gets off the res or doesn't say what they want, he gives them a yank. That's how it works. Okay, he doesn't give a shit about these issues. It's easy to fall into that, but that is not what is happening. Okay, so let's jump in to we're an hour and a half into this conversation where they were supposed to be done. They were supposed to end at 1:30. So he starts wrapping it up somewhere around what really is an isolationist. And then it starts to cadaver very quickly. So here you go.
Have fallen. I would use economic sanctions and I would use moral suasion to try to effectuate
But if you
regime
topple,
change.
okay, so you topple the regime and by whatever means, what happens then? How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah,
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's,
because,
it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and
what
predominantly Shia. Okay,
it's not even... You don't know anything about Iran. So
okay,
actually,
am not.
By the way, neither does Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson is picking apart the ethnic makeup of the country and the numbers as if that matters to the decision, right? I mean, the same argument would be like, what's the landmass of Israel versus the landmass of Iraq? Well, I don't know the mileage or whatever, but one is smaller than the other significantly, right? Yes, I am liking this, by the way. And also, the details of this aren't important. This is an attack point by Tucker Carlson against Ted Cruz. And Ted Cruz thinks he's asking a specific question. Tucker Carlson doesn't have the brain pan to ask a specific question. He's got the facts written on the sheet in front of him. So he's not even, the reality would be ask a ballpark question. He thinks he's answering that way. They're just being assholes. This is fun.
The Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who
don't know
claims
anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the
I'm
one
not saying that.
who can't figure out
I'm
if it was a
saying
good
you don't
idea to kill
believe-
General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
They're
This is adorable. Again, ladies and gentlemen, chat room, can we just enjoy this for 1 second? Let's step back for a moment. We'll continue to watch, but this goes. I should start a file that is just like stuff the maggots never thought they would be arguing about 6 months ago. If I wish I had a time machine and clips of this so that I could go back in the past, like, hey, we built a time machine, but it only works for less than 8 months. I have the perfect use for it. All I'm gonna do. You can only go to the past 8 months, and then you can come back. Oh, this is gonna be great, or whatever. Can I have one of those? Since you made up this magical time machine, can I also have one of those Men in Black flashy things so that they forget what I showed them? Why? Well, so they don't change anything. Oh, that's important. Yeah, good point. So you can go back and tell them what the future is, just to see what their reaction is, and then flashy face them, and then disappear again, and they'll just continue on their way. Yeah, that's exactly it. So I get in the time machine with clips of this, like sit down, go find Ted Cruz and go, hey, this is you in 6 months talking to Tucker Carlson. Holy shit. Where are you going with that iPad? None of your business. Do the same thing to Tucker. It's so good. So good. All right, here we go.
trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe
we're
that,
carrying out military strikes today.
you said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not
at all.
bombing them. Israel.
He said offensive capacity. No contradiction. Look at me arguing the points again. So stupid.
Bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting
This is
Israel.
high stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people.
If it was really high stakes, he wouldn't be on a show like yours. Things are very dangerous in the world, and people need the facts. Quick, let me rush over and do Tucker Carlson's network.
People are listening.
Okay, we are not bombing them.
Oh, okay.
Israel is bombing them. And hey, why do you do the snide? Oh, okay.
What do you mean? Because this is super high stakes stuff. This is a huge country that borders a lot of other.
How they didn't pray Tucker and Wolverine. Yeah, I'm not talking about the specifics of these guys. I'm telling you, one represents one maggot train. The other represents the other maggot train. They both left the station from different sides at the same time, and their tracks converge. And this is them hitting.
Important countries all over the world. Energy comes from there.
So
Let me
ask
don't
you,
want
Tucker.
another.
Energy comes from there? You're right. That is why we should have renewables. Hey, look at that. They're all coming to it. They're realizing, hey, if we never needed oil again, we wouldn't have to deal with any of this shit. If we would just shift to solar and renewables, maybe even our own micronuclear, perhaps thorium, because you can't actually convert that into weaponizable fissional material, maybe that's what you do. I'm kidding. They just think oil.
Disaster. You don't want to be
Tucker,
reckless.
the Ayatollah refers to Israel as the little Satan and America as the great Satan. Do you believe him when he says it's the great Satan?
Of course I believe
if the
Fuck you. We're the awesome Satan. Great Satan.
Ayatollah could murder both of us right now, that he would? I do.
Well, no. You know, Tucker was quiet. Of course not. I'm friends with Putin. He wouldn't. They would say, don't kill Tucker. He's on the team.
I believe him.
Okay, I assume no good faith on the part of the Ayatollah.
No, not
and
good
if your
faith.
implication
No,
is like
it's not
I'm
good
pro
faith.
Ayatollah or something.
No, it's not good faith. It's that
Just saying, you're a lawmaker. You're a powerful person in Washington.
By the way, does Tucker Carlson think that laugh is somehow disarming? For real? Does he think that? Does he think that's like people like when I do that, people are like, oh, it's adorable. Sorry, we're back to one.
This is the most powerful country in the world. If you're calling for toppling in government, it's incumbent on you to know something about the country and to think through the consequences of that. And you haven't, and you don't. And I'm saying that's reckless.
I haven't thought. Okay, you engage in reckless rhetoric with no facts and.
Damn.
Be clear.
I'm not calling for the overthrow of a government. You are.
You put out a newsletter attacking Donald Trump and calling him complicit.
Never
I can
attacked
read
Donald Trump.
Yes, you have. And by the way,
I campaigned for Donald Trump.
Okay, yes,
And this is
and
after anti.
Cut to Hal roasting marshmallows on this fire.
Anti-Semitism, this is the last refuge. You're an anti-Semite and you hate Trump.
Okay,
I love Trump.
I will read. You put out a whole newsletter saying Trump.
Oh, somebody brought props. Oh. Oh, this is so good. Oh. You go, girl. Yes, queen.
Abandoned America First. And here's what Trump said in response. Well, considering that I'm the one that developed America First and considering that the term wasn't used until I came along, I think I'm the one who decides that.
It wasn't. It was used by the American Nazi Party to try and get us to not go into the World War II and save the Jews, which, by the way, Tucker would have agreed with.
For those people who say they want peace, you can't have peace if Iran has a nuclear weapon. So for all of those wonderful people who don't want to do anything about Iran having a nuclear weapon, that's not peace. That was directed at you.
Man, you got me. Busted.
No, I'm just saying.
Look, my views, look, I like.
I've been to Russia. I saw 4 parties, 2 really nice hotel rooms, and an underground subway station with a chandelier in it. They have no problems. I come back to America. Have you seen all the black people in this country? We've got to fix this. Trust fund kid. Just saying.
Trump, I campaigned for Trump. I know Trump. I talked to him last night. I'm not against Trump, and you know that.
But you're against his foreign policy.
I think that we should be very careful about entering into more foreign wars that don't help us when our country is dying.
When you say
and our
don't
country
help
is
us,
dying.
Our country is dying of blackness. There is black peoples and Mexicans that are like using their grubby hands and touching my food.
Look, yes, focus on our country. I'm all for it. But the naivete.
You don't even know how much money this costs. You don't know anything about the country whose government you want to overthrow, and you're calling me reckless.
I want to stop a lunatic who wants to murder.
Apparently the laugh is not working on Ted Cruz. Oh, what an asshole.
Us from getting nuclear weapons that could kill millions of Americans.
Fair.
Well, you can't say fair unless you're willing to do something about it, stupid. Fair. You want to do this? Fair. Just don't.
Say, I can't see how that benefits America in any way. That is bizarre. And by the way,
bizarre.
It's
Isolationism.
not bizarre. His laugh is bizarre. Everything else about it is exactly trackable to his controllers in Russia. Yours are exactly trackable to I don't know, you and Lindsey Graham in a weekend in St. Martin. Happy Pride, everybody. For real.
Let's party like we're moving gay, 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 gay. Buns and dongs and vests and thongs, whoa, I love that feeling. Zipper hoods have got the goods, owie, owie, oh. Buns and dongs and vests and thongs, whoa, I love that feeling. Zipper hoods have got the goods, owie, owie, oh.
Can we all get along? Yes, we can. And I think one of the things we can find is that I think in a both sides arguments in the world of MAGA, there's it's understandable that you would think like, oh, both sides have something to get angry about. I think that's probably true, but that's kind of low res thinking. You got to think that both sides have something to laugh a lot about. But stuff. All right.
Your foreign policy is the foreign policy of Jimmy Carter and Barack Obama.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, damn. Ouch. I did cut stuff. I left before butt stuff. I'm sorry.
And it doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm a big leftist.
Please don't cut that out of context. I would never.
This is so silly. I'm Jimmy Carter and Barack Obama. Okay.
Well, as far as I know, neither one of them have herpes simplex 10. Sorry.
Let me just say one last thing.
So how is your foreign policy different from Jimmy Carter's?
Is this based on a deep, abiding Christianity and Tucker Carlson's nuts are in the hands of the Kremlin and they squeeze him whenever he doesn't obey. I think maybe that.
Seriously.
Yeah, and by the way, while we're at it, prove to everybody you don't know the lyrics to a bunch of Lynyrd Skynyrd songs or Allman Brothers.
Please.
Please, I'm not even going to glorify that with an answer.
I asked that question seriously.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
And yet you advocate for what you're advocating for the same priorities as Jimmy Carter and Barack Obama.
Jimmy Carter?
Yes, he was a really, really wonderful man. Passed away recently. A great parent, and a great father and a great husband, and was a terrific president. And really, honestly, was pilloried for years and was nowhere near the bad president that he was stacked up to be. Basically, he was the first post-Nixon PR attack of the Republican machine. And by the way, don't worry, you're nothing like him. He was a good person.
So, what century is this? I am the
I'm sorry. You want to let Iran have a nuke and you don't even know what century it is? Sorry, this is so stupid.
Product of the last 25 years, watching carefully, being involved in the periphery, and I see.
Oh. I mean, that's some bona fides. Being involved in the periphery.
An unending string of foreign policy disasters that have impoverished and hurt our country.
Unending string.
Unending string. They would include Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, and our inability to stop the Houthis, by the way, in Yemen, which exposes us as weak. And
inability to stop the Houthis. I'm sorry, you think we should have gone further? That's new.
Grieve over that. So these are...
Yes, that's true. Jimmy Carter was a great grandfather, too. He was a great great-grandfather, I think, as well.
Failures. You helped preside over some of them.
Let's just settle this. Jimmy Carter blessed the life of every person he came into contact with, and Tucker Carlson is the boil on the ass of humanity. They couldn't be farther apart.
As a member of the Senate.
What failures, foreign policy failures, have I presided over?
Well, we were unable to beat Russia in the war that you supported against Russia. You've been spending the last 3 years telling us that Vladimir Putin is evil and we're going to beat him with other people's children, and 1 million of those kids are now dead. You've never apologized for that. That was a full failure.
By the way, look, the level of number of falsehoods you lay out just in one statement are rather
You haven't supported the war against Russia?
Are rather stunning. So the war against Russia was caused, which I have explained at great detail, by Joe Biden's weakness.
And by default, yours, Tucker.
But you supported the war.
If you want to talk, we can talk Russia and Ukraine. I'm happy to talk about it.
Yeah, but do either of you speak Russian? Do you have any idea how many people are in Russia? Do you know what? Do you know how many months of the year there's permafrost in the Arctic or in the eastern part of Russia? No, you don't. What about the western part? How about that? Which parts have China renamed to Chinese areas? Do you even know that? How many? If a chicken and a half takes a day and a half to lay an egg and a half, how long would it take a monkey with a wooden leg to kick all the seeds out of a dill pickle? You don't even know the answer to that.
Do you think that's been a success?
No, it's been an absolute disaster.
Okay, but...
Yeah, we should have gone further. Holding back. Oh, thank you, Tuckums versus Raphael. I know it's so good.
You supported it. Shouldn't you apologize?
No, you should apologize. I'm not going to engage in the demanding of apologies. So I'm going to.
I'm like, that's my point. Is all these failures and no one ever says I'm sorry.
Matter, or do you just?
That's what it is. That's his point. Finally. Why does no one say I'm sorry? That's what it's all about. It's not about wars and unending wars and never-ending wars and forever wars and wars of words and War of the Roses being a fairly decent movie but never really getting the credit it deserves. No, it's about why has no one apologized? Why is there no apology? Why would you do that to me? No apologies. Jesus Christ.
Throw out, if you want to talk, we can talk.
Okay.
Put down the frying pan.
I do. I want to know why that seems like a true disaster for the United States.
Nope.
You have supported it. Have
Do you believe
learned
Joe
anything?
Biden's weakness caused the war in Ukraine?
Yeah, the same way I think Iran attacked Israel because of it, and October 7th was caused by Biden being old and too friendly, and then of course Israel deciding to attack Iran is because of Donald Trump's weakness on tariffs.
I think Joe Biden's aggression caused it.
His aggression? What aggression?
Here it comes.
He demanded that Ukraine join NATO. How does that help the United States?
He did not demand that Ukraine join NATO. Gibberish.
It is a terrible idea, and I have
Yeah, nobody said it.
vigorously opposed Ukraine joining NATO.
Okay, so that's what caused the war.
No, it's not.
Okay. All right.
Do you want to know what caused the war? Look, you do the dismissive. You're not actually interested in.
Here's a good idea. How about this? What caused the war was a fake premise, no matter what it was. I mean, they're lying about it anyways. But it's on now. And if you're saying that Trump would have ended it just by being there, or it never would have started, then why can't he end it just by being back? Because you're full of shit. Because he views Trump just as weak as Biden, because it has nothing to do with this entirely, and you're just trying to cover your ass.
Facts. You're like, okay.
Okay,
Hal, don't you think this is just performative? No, I do not, Allie. No. It's an important question you bring up, though. But let me be abundantly clear. This is not kabuki theater. This is not, oh, well, I'll pretend to be for it, and you'll pretend to be after, and we'll all play, do not attribute 5D chess to any of this shit. They are all, both of them are speaking honestly right now. Donald Trump, when he says, nobody knows what I'm going to do, is telling the truth, because even he doesn't.
tell me, it seems super obvious. You're absolutely right, and I'm sorry. That is a tick of mine that is wrong, and I mean this with sincerity. I'm sorry to do that to you. I just think it seems so obvious that sending Kamala Harris to the NATO Security Conference to say, you're going to join NATO is what triggered the invasion days later.
Okay, so can I, this will take a few minutes to lay out because it's complicated, but I think the facts matter. I think two things caused the war in Ukraine. Number one, I think
the Afghan pullout, which apparently was a terrible cue to take.
Biden's incredible weakness and the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. Now, I believe we need to leave Afghanistan, but not with the incompetence that led to 13 servicemen and women being murdered by terrorists there.
So stay in, is what you meant. Because if you listen to Trump, he wanted to keep Bagram, which means staying. You can't stay and leave at the same time. Just stay in. That's all you're doing. Fuck off.
The way Biden did that was disastrous, and I think
What was the way? Actually saying let's go? Actually, I mean, he didn't set the timeline. He pushed it.
enemies looked to the commander-in-chief and said, this president is weak.
Yeah, Schrodinger's Afghanistan. That's a great way to look at it.
And when that withdrawal was so disastrous, I said publicly at the time, the chances of Putin invading Ukraine have just risen tenfold.
Right.
He was already in Ukraine in 2014, stupid. That's why they kicked him out of the G8 and made it the G7.
But secondly, and this is critically
Well, I
important.
Maybe thirdly.
That was awful, the withdrawal.
And it was a
How was getting the hell backed out of him on Tony Markle? Sorry. They were bashing me on Tony Michael's show this morning? You mean in the chat room or whatever? Tony says, fuck him. For what? I'd love to hear it. Because we should depose Democrats or something? Oh, God, I don't know.
major call.
Who cares? Who cares?
Of our enemies all said, hey, this president is weak. And so it invited, and by the way, look, I despise war, and I think
No, you don't.
weakness and isolationism produces war.
Right. So, cogito ergo sum, e pluribus unum, have a nice day. Tucker Carlson, you are why Russia invaded Ukraine. How's that feel, Jimmy Carter light?
Because it invites aggression from our bad guys. It's why I agree with Ronald Reagan's peace through strength. The best way you avoid war is being strong enough that your enemies don't want to mess with you. But let's get back to Ukraine and Russia. Look, Putin didn't wake up 2 years ago and decided he wanted to invade Ukraine. He's wanted to invade Ukraine for decades.
Yes, it was the apple of his eye.
Putin has referred to.
Somebody said, haven't heard any facts yet. Please don't delude yourself in thinking that either of these gentlemen have the mental capacity to process any of the facts that they're dealing with, because they all have to squeeze it through a fucking filter of how do I show fealty to Donald John Trump. So even if they had facts at one point, it's like put through a wood chipper by the time it gets to their brain pan, which is incapable of processing anything that requires a depth of thought. So don't get confused at any point and think, when are they going to get to the point where not going to happen? These guys are talking around their own assholes. Don't expect anything else, or you'll be seriously disappointed.
The collapse.
By the way, that's an evergreen piece of advice. That applies to any time either of these assholes are talking. Because what you'll find is 20% of the time with either one of these people, you will agree with something that they say, because that's how they mismanage facts. That's the point. Okay? And then 80% of the time, they're extrapolations where the destinations they get to. Here's a fact. I'm in a vehicle. It's got tires. I am leaving a driveway. I am pulling out onto the road. There are rules of the road. These are all facts. Agreed? Agreed. Great. Okay, so my idea is we put all the kids in the car and drive them off a cliff. What? Well, you didn't disagree with my facts earlier, right? It's the conclusion that matters. It's what they draw from the facts that they present, okay? Or it's a lot of times it's not even facts. It's common misconceptions that they present as common sense. You'll hear common sense all the time. Common sense, that's a big phrase with them. When they say common sense, what they mean is common misconceptions. The average person, if you ask them, is this how this works? They go, yeah, it sounds like that's how it works. Well, it's not. In French, they have a thing called faux amis, which is words that sound exactly alike, like incredible and incredible. And incredible means amazingly great, and unbelievably good in English, and it means not credible in French. And so it sounds like incredible and incredible would be how you say incredible in French, right? That would be how you do it. But they're actually the opposite. So it's a trick of the turn. So in this particular case, they will extrapolate things that make it the opposite of wherever they started. So anyways, understand that.
The Soviet Union as, quote, the greatest geopolitical disaster of the 20th century.
Sorry, the what was?
And Putin has long been explicit.
Oh, he says it was the dissolution of it was
for decades. Putin has referred to the collapse of the Soviet Union as, quote, the greatest geopolitical disaster of the 20th century.
Okay, fact, you'll see what I mean here.
And Putin has long been explicit. His desire is to reassemble the old Soviet Union and, in fact, reassemble the Russian Empire that was even bigger than that. If you want to reassemble the Soviet Union, the natural place to start is Ukraine.
No, it's Georgia and Chechnya. He already did that. That's the part that everybody ignores. And again, this is exactly what I'm talking about. By focusing on Ukraine, you're just blowing past the fact that he invaded Georgia and basically is leveraging, the passage of gas, pipelines through their country to steal money from that area. They basically just invaded Georgia 900 yards past the pipeline so they can charge transit fees to the countries that's sending the gas through. And then took over Chechnya, killing, untold thousands of people. If you ignore that, then it looks like NATO expansion has gone off the fucking rails. Again, 1997, Russia-NATO expanding agreement. This motherfucker doesn't know anything about it. Neither does Ted Cruz. Both of them should. It's annoying.
Do you really believe that Putin has territorial designs on Eastern Europe?
Yes.
You know how you know? He said so, dummy. Yeah, he wants Alaska back.
What countries?
He has said that you can go and read his. Hold on. I don't want to lose the narrative of what happened, so we can go back and do that. But I don't want to lose telling the story first. So let me explain.
By the way, and the idea that Tucker Carlson went and interviewed Vladimir Putin and basically gargled his nuts while he was in Russia and doesn't know what Russia's plan, what Ruski Mir is, the Russian world, all that stuff is. It's absurd. It's a lie. It's just a fucking lie. There's no way he doesn't know this. There's no fucking way.
This, and then if you want to go back, we can take all sorts of.
It's as dumb as thinking this all started with Ukraine.
Aggressions, but just give me a couple.
Paul says playing to an audience of one. I don't think so. I don't think they're both aiming at. The audience of one would be MAGA as a big brainworm, because they're both trying to coax MAGA to their side of the aisle.
Couple of minutes to lay out the facts of what happened. He has wanted to invade Ukraine a long time, and he's done it before. In 2014, he invaded Ukraine, invaded Crimea. When Barack Obama was president, he invaded the southern portion. He did not invade the rest of the country. Why? And the reason is the principal source of revenue for Russia is oil and gas, and the natural gas pipelines run right through the country of Ukraine, and he didn't want to jeopardize his ability to get gas to Europe.
Right.
So in 2015, Putin started a project called Nord Stream 2.
Did anything happen in 2014?
Yes. Yeah. The people of that country rose up, and Paul Manafort, who later worked for the Trump campaign, basically talked to Yanukovych and talked him into putting snipers in towers to kill people on Euromaidan.
In terms of what?
Wasn't there a coup in Ukraine run by the Obama administration?
Let me finish telling. I told you we'll take lots of digressions in a second. Let me finish.
Yeah, that's a cartoon. The easy fallback is for dipshits who believe that the CIA runs everything in the fucking world. It's as dumb as the cabal of baby eaters storyline. And again, I guess the CIA is working hand in glove with the baby eaters who apparently can't even get, Trump shot in a field in Butler, right?
Telling the narrative. 2015, Putin began building Nord Stream 2. Nord Stream 2 is an undersea pipeline that runs from Russia to Germany. The entire purpose of Nord Stream 2 is when it was completed and turned on, it would let Russia circumvent Ukraine and get its gas straight to Europe. In 2019, Nord Stream 2 was almost complete. And the conventional wisdom in Washington was, this is terrible, but there's nothing we can do about it. I didn't believe that. So I drafted sanctions legislation that was targeted to stop the pipeline. My legislation passed the Senate with overwhelming.
Yes, and Tucker Carlson's balance in his checking account went down precipitously.
Bipartisan support. It passed the House, and Donald Trump signed it in law.
Can I just ask, why wouldn't you want Germany to have cheap energy?
Why wouldn't you want to have cheap energy? I mean, and arguably, why wouldn't you want to just have as much Iranian oil as they want, or Venezuelan? Why wouldn't you? I mean, yes, if they would take the funds and they're using it to pay for, invading other countries, and they'd already invaded. I mean, why do you care about Georgians? This is so stupid.
Because it empowers Russia, and I believe in making our enemies weaker and our friends stronger.
Has blowing up Nord Stream made Germany stronger?
Not being dependent on Russia has made Germany stronger.
Just, you think Germany is stronger now than it was 4 years ago?
I think not being dependent on Russia. Germany has all sorts of problems, and many of them are domestic to their own politics. Hold on, let me finish. I'm trying to.
No, but what you're saying, it doesn't. Germany seems so much weaker now that its energy costs have spiked and the manufacturing sector is collapsing because of that.
Let me finish. I'm focused on America's interest.
But again, can I remind everyone, we have two inserious morons discussing something that is out of both of their depth. And both of them will strike on material realities or opinions that you'll go, oh, that sounds fairly reasonable. But understand what they will attach it to. They will take every balloon that possibly could float, and they will attach it to a fucking anchor and put it in the water and watch it sink.
I don't want Russia stronger because I believe Russia is our enemy. You and I disagree on that. We can talk about that. But I want our enemies weaker. I don't want to go to war with Russia, but I want our enemies weaker. I don't want Europe dependent on Russia. I don't want...
Is there anything about that whole only pedophiles wear just a pinky ring thing? Sorry, I digress.
Putin, rich with oil and gas revenues and able to invest in his military and pose a threat to America. So, the sanctions legislation that I authored, it passed. Putin stopped building Nord Stream 2 literally the day that President Trump signed my sanctions legislation into law.
Right. So just for those keeping score, this is Ted Cruz taking credit for when Trump says he ended Nord Stream, right? Ending Nord Stream. I stopped it and Biden let it happen or whatever. This is Ted Cruz taking credit for that thing. Just, I don't want that to be missed, so that if anybody notices this and it rolls through and Trump goes, wait a minute, Ted Cruz is taking credit for the fact that I shut down? Okay, there we go.
Signed it.
You keep hearing Nordstrom. I know, we all need to go. I need a new pair of, they sell those 6-packs of socks. Sorry.
If I remember right, at 7 p.m. on a Thursday, Putin stopped construction at 6:45 p.m. So the sanctions legislation worked, and it killed the pipeline. The pipeline lay dormant for over a year, just a hunk of metal at the bottom of the ocean.
Full of gas.
Joe Biden came into office. He was sworn in on January 20th, 2021. Putin resumed deep-sea construction of Nord Stream 2 4 days later, January 24th. He did so because Biden had foreshadowed weakness on this issue. That foreshadowing was accurate because several months later, Biden formally waived the sanctions on Nord Stream 2 and let Putin complete the pipeline. In January of 2022, I forced a vote on the Senate floor to reimpose sanctions on Nord Stream 2. The week of the vote, President Zelensky in Ukraine publicly called on the Senate, please pass this sanctions legislation. It is the last best hope of stopping Russia from invading Ukraine. At the same time, the government of Poland put out a formal statement from the foreign ministry.
Dakota's like, yawn. This is all, again, Monday morning quarterbacking. But yes, Biden was right. But the good part of this is Tucker has no idea what he's talking about. None of these details, none of what happened in the Senate, where the sanctions came from, the fact that they weren't Trump's, that none of that stuff, like nothing.
To the Senate, calling on the Senate to pass my sanctions legislation, and said, if you do not, Putin will invade Ukraine. The day of the vote, Joe Biden came to Capitol Hill. It's the first time in his presidency he had done that. He went to the Democrat senators' lunch, and he personally lobbied them on this issue, not any other issue. This was his number one issue that he came to lobby them on.
Gibberish.
They came out of that lunch. Every Democrat had...
But that's a flat lie, by the way. I don't know if he brought it up. I have no doubt that he brought up this sanction or whatever, because they were trying to normalize with Russia and giving them one last chance was the idea. And they didn't think they were actually going to invade at that particular point. And then when he did actually gin up and decide, when Russia started moving its medics to the front line right outside the Donbass, Biden was like, oh, yep, they're going in. And they told Zelensky and they told the Europeans and they told everybody, and everybody said nope, including fucking Hamas Abi and Rusty Trombone. All these people were like, he's just trying to start a war with Russia. They're not going to invade. And they did.
Voted with me twice against Nord Stream 2. 44 Democrats flipped their vote. They voted in favor of Russia, in favor of Putin, and 4 weeks later, Russia invaded Ukraine. That was the direct cause of the war. And if Trump had been president, there would be no war in Ukraine.
So may I ask, I, of course, disagree with your analysis.
Not with the details that you put forth. I have no idea whether you signed that legislation or any of that happened, because both of us are talking out of our ass.
Completely, but I want to be respectful.
Okay.
And
so tell me what you disagree with.
It's such a long conversation. I've spent the last couple of years on this, and I just respectfully disagree with your analysis, but I don't doubt.
How so? This is so lame.
Your sincerity, that you believe that Putin is our enemy, that Western Europe should not be allowed to use Russian energy. I mean, you seem to really believe these things. My question is about results, because I think it's relevant to what we're seeing now in Iran. You look back after having you personally voted to send billions and billions and billions of U.S. tax dollars to Zelensky to support his civil service in the war against Russia and all this stuff. Can you say that what you did worked?
Yes. Does Russia control all of Ukraine, which they plan to do within 6 fucking days? This is just stupid. And by the way, this is not me siding with this dipshit. But like the premise of the question is just dorky.
So I can say what I did personally, sanctioning Nord Stream 2 worked and prevented a war. And if Trump had still been there, if the sanction had been in effect, there would be no war. I'm in favor of avoiding wars.
But once the war broke out, you voted to fund it.
You can't fund a war that was a war of aggression. You can fund the defense of it. Anyways.
To the tune of billions and billions and billions.
And to be clear.
And did that work?
Okay,
Yes, Russia does not control Ukraine. They've captured like I don't know, whatever, 30 football fields worth of land in the last 3 years and lost 1 million soldiers. I think so, actually. And it wasn't Ted Cruz alone. Supporting Ukraine has been an unmitigated success, considering a war of attrition and the destruction of the Ukrainian people and the language and the culture and the human beings that were there and the grabbing of the entire country was the goal. Fuck yeah, dummy.
To be clear, what I voted for the initial tranche of funding, and then I voted against the subsequent one. So it hasn't.
So you're an impotent fuck. So yeah. So you're a backpedaler and a wuss. Hey, how about this? Maybe the first vote for the sanction thing made him look all tough, but once that failed, Russia knew you'd fall in line. Maybe it's your weakness, Ted Cruz, that caused all this.
Worked. So I've been in between. I haven't been on the full Ukraine, full-throated hawk side or the anti from day one. I voted for the initial tranche of funding because I wanted Russia to lose. I think the Biden administration administered it in a horrible way. I think they wasted a ton of money. And
because you think they should have gone further. Say it. Say it, you wuss. You want to talk about like peace through strength and the power of forceful leadership, and then you're like, I think they should have done something. But now that they're not going to do that something, then fuck it. You know, maybe you're the Afghanistan collapse that he took. Maybe the assumption that people like Ted Cruz would be in charge of these kind of fundings, or that they would spearhead bills like this, or something that Russia took in.
I think what they did was actually incoherent because they were funding both sides of the war. I was very vocal and among other things, flooding $100 million.
Also, both of these assholes. Just fun.
To Iran, which was used, among other things, to help the nuclear program, but also to make drones that Russia used to fight.
So here's my concern. I'm not going to defend the Biden administration. Really did a lot to wreck the United States.
Yeah, did the most damaging administration.
Look, they can finally, now they're friends.
And where we sit now, Russia is stronger. It's close.
No. Unless, I don't know, maybe Tucker Carlson is going, you know what would make any country stronger? 1 million dead roofing age males.
Closely allied long-term with China.
I don't know that Russia's stronger. I don't think that's right.
Okay.
Have you seen the bread they have in their markets 4 blocks from the Kremlin? Have you seen the hookers they have over there? Ted has. Doink.
I think it's pretty obvious that it is. But it's certainly not destroyed. And it's allied long-term with China.
No, it's not.
Maybe that there's no doubt Biden's foreign policy drove Russia into the arms of China, and that's concerning. Okay. They also have a long history of animosity.
Western Europe is weaker and more in debt. The United States is weaker and much more in debt. Hold on. So you and I are agreeing on a lot. We're agreeing.
Hold on. Does this asshole think Russia's getting rich off this war? Jesus. There's an ocean between Russia and Germany. These guys are saying there's a pipeline underneath an ocean that isn't there, and that is one hell of a drug. Yeah. Well, Richard, what they're saying is they wanted to circumvent Ukraine so they wouldn't have to pay transit fees. And the idea is that if they didn't have to pay the transit fees, they wouldn't attack Ukraine. This is the premise that Cruz is cocking up right now. And it's all bullshit.
Here's my question. Have you questioned any of your previous assumptions? Did you play any role in this at all? Are you responsible at all?
Of course, and like you said.
What have you learned?
Like you said you've changed your mind.
Yeah,
I voted for the first funding of the Ukraine war, and I voted against every subsequent funding stream.
Yes, that's what a turncoat or a weasel would do. Yeah, nice follow through, dickhead. I'll start this, but if it escalates at all, I'm out of here. Thanks. I salute you, Turd Cruz.
Because it wasn't working, and I looked at what was happening.
Hal Sparks, which one's opinion is more wrong? They are equally wrong because they will take similar facts like the pros and cons of something. So you're seeing the pros and cons of a situation like this just thrown on the floor, and both of them are just taking turns shitting diarrhea all over the other person's point, but not actually doing anything with them.
And said,
that was a terrible analogy, but I stand by it.
Is not working, and had the money been spent in an intelligent way and not wasted, and had it been successful, I might have been willing to fund more, but it wasn't successful, so I voted no, and the war is going to end. Look, President Trump campaigned on ending the war.
Yes, in an hour, on one phone call, before he takes office. How's that working out, stupid? You want to talk about like somebody looking at something as weakness? Shit, you could argue that his inability to stop the Ukraine war like he bragged he could do in an hour is why we got, Israel feeling comfortable to attack Iran, and he's going to fold in behind him, right? That would be the idea. They can count on it because he's just a liar.
I think he's frustrated because Putin has been less than eager to reach a deal to end the war, but it's going to end. You're not going to see another
Do you
dollar
think
coming from
Zelensky
Congress.
wants to end the war?
Of course he does, stupid. Do you think Zelensky? No, he just wants to keep fighting it because he thinks he's a war president and he likes his own people dying. That's why he started the war in the first place. Jesus Christ.
I think Zelensky has behaved horribly. I think it.
No, he hasn't. Shut the fuck up. Stop trying to kiss Tucker's ass.
His Oval Office meeting will go down in history as the worst Oval Office meeting of any leader that has ever come to the Oval Office. I think.
Right, because Trump is terrible at everything, and he didn't even know that they had the drone program ready to go.
He behaved like a punk.
And when he said, you got no cards, they literally had some of the most amazing cards we've seen played in modern warfare since the beeper attack.
Trump's ass. And I think he is unrealistic. I think Zelensky spends his time with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer in the New York Times, and he believed he was going to the Oval Office as a resist figure. And I think he's doing real damage to his country right now.
You described him many times as a hero. Do you?
I don't recall ever using the word hero. I will say, look, I'm not a Zelensky cheerleader, and I'm not in the business.
God damn it. I don't know which is more gross. Tucker's just insistence on crowbarring every bullshit Kremlin talking point into this that he possibly can, unattached from the alleged peacenik, linguistic gymnastics he's doing, or Ted Cruz is just folding like a fucking pocket knife at every turn. Good go, like it's even right now. If we had to score this right now, both of these guys are equally mentally lazy and grotesque.
Of saying everyone we support has to be a saint and everyone we oppose has to be a villain. I'm not in the morality game. I'm in.
Of course not. You're a Trump supporter. You couldn't possibly be, or this whole conversation would have been about the Epstein files. You tit.
The U.S. interest game. Why did I want Nord Stream 2 stopped? Because it would strengthen Russia, and Russia's our enemies. It's entirely U.S. interest.
Did you support the industrial sabotage against it, blowing it up?
So I think you believe America did that. Is that right?
Of course.
Okay, I think the chances of that are zero.
You think Russia did it?
No,
Russia.
I think Ukraine did it. Okay, so I don't know.
I think Russia did it. You know why I think that? Because there are more cameras on that fucking pipeline than any other pipeline in the entire world, and yet there's no footage of the attack. What are the fucking odds of that? There's no footage around the attack. And the hole in it comes from the inside. They sent a pig into it and they blew it up. You know why? Because they sent all the guys who would be responsible for draining the gas that was already in there to fucking get their brains blown out in the Donbass, and they don't have the staff to actually do it. So they just emptied it. They blew a hole in it, thought it would be politically helpful. It was in the Tucker Carlson world, but they drained the gas out of it into the fucking ocean. Because they didn't have it wasn't going to go to Germany. It had stopped. They had shut it completely down on that side. So if you want to get the gas out of this fucking bomb that's under the water, it's either coming back through Russia or it's going out a hole.
So I don't know who did it. In terms of the theories that had been put out there, the idea that Russia blew up their own pipeline never made any sense to me at all.
Well, then why didn't the cameras work? Why didn't the sensors work? Their fucking pipeline. The other thing is, why do we want anybody who builds a pipeline like that under the water not to have working sensors and working cameras that bad around an explosion like that? Well, I mean, that's reason enough to never let them build another undersea pipeline again, wouldn't you think? That's the biggest problem I have with it. If somebody dove down there or dropped a bomb next to it and set it off, you'd see it. So stupid. Of course they blew it up, dummy. They paid Ukrainians from the Donbass, who are Russians, to do it.
That just, I can't even articulate why they would do that.
I just did, and it's not difficult. Gulf of Tonkin, false flags work like crazy. Why wouldn't you? Jesus.
The idea that Biden did that, look, I could see it being in U.S. interest to do that, to blow up Nord Stream 2. I just think Biden was too weak. I don't believe Joe Biden.
But
gave
are
that
you
order.
in? I guess you in.
So that leads
The
me-
Norwegians, the Ukrainians, NATO, whatever.
Look, that leads me to
difference.
Same difference. No, not the same difference. So Ukraine's already in NATO? Well, shit, let's crack on with Article 5 then, fucko. Good Lord. Thank you, Richard.
Who benefits? And it leads me to think either the Ukrainians blew it up or
Russia benefits. It's a dead-end pipeline attached to one of their facilities. It's full of gas. They don't want to drain it out the other direction. They can use it for political means, blame it on somebody else, use it to manipulate, the administration or the House or the Senate.
Ukraine's allies. I don't think Biden did because
No, I don't think Cruz was in the military, insofar as I know.
Biden was so weak, I don't think he would give the order. I find that implausible.
But you're in favor of it.
Look, I was in favor of stopping it. I think blowing it up was a good thing. So I'm supportive of that, but I don't think America did that. I don't think Biden gave that order.
But in
I
general,
could see Trump giving that.
But in general, I could see Trump giving that order. Here we go.
But
Because macho.
he wasn't in office.
Yes, Trump could have given that order because he is full of himself, desperately wants people to think his dick is bigger than a Vienna sausage, and makes stupid decisions all the time. Right? Yes, yes, I agree with that reasoning.
Yeah.
How about this? How about if it was MAGA loyalists in the National Guard who rowed a boat out there and then did it while sending a cable to Putin that said, "What's that over there?"
Yeah. And you think
Please don't film the pipeline for the next 18 hours.
that the largest act of industrial sabotage in history helped our allies in Western Europe or other fellow NATO members?
Look, I got to say, I don't understand. For some reason, you are really invested in defending Russia, and I don't get that. I'm not attacking you with that. I'm genuinely I don't get why you're so passionate about.
Well, it's because it's not that I'm defending Russia. It's that I'm just offended when America goes after everyone, but I only bring it up when it's Russia.
Defending Russia.
Actually, I was defending Western Europe, the home of my ancestors, and that tripling their energy costs and destroying their industrial base. Not like. You just accused me of being an anti-Semite, an isolationist, and a Russia lackey. I've not
Yeah, and normally that's what he says as the password to get into the special meetings.
called you a neocon once, which you are, but I haven't said that.
Damn! I haven't called you a neocon once. And now that we've degraded into name calling, that's what I'm going to do. I say, if we're going to talk with these kind of tongues, we should just go outside on the playground where everyone else is.
Absurd. Those neocons that oppose the Iraq War.
Right.
But that's
Okay,
dishonest.
but I haven't called you that because name
Well, you
calling.
just said, which you are. You just called that.
Okay.
Called me that. You just did.
Yeah, you called me a name, okay? And I didn't call you a name, but you called me a name. And I wasn't calling you a name. I was describing you as something. I was describing your behavior. And you took the name of the... I know you are, but what am I? I know you are. Shut up, Francis.
I guess what I'm saying is you're triggered because I use name calling. I get it. I was triggered when you called me names. And I'm triggered once again that you're calling me a Russia defender.
Do you guys need a safe space? Jesus Christ. I thought Don Jr.'s show was called Triggered, ironically. This one should be called Triggered genuinely. I think that's all we're watching here is two grown men triggered by schoolyard insults. Jesus.
When in fact I'm defending Western Europe.
No, you're not. Not if you want them on the... What, if you're defending Western Europe, why don't you go, Europe doesn't need Russian oil. They can just do this all with nuclear and renewables. Fuck them. I think we should be completely dislodged from anybody who might, mean to attack us the way they did Georgia or Chechnya. This is bullshit.
And I don't think that you
By the way, both of these men are cowards. No, don't worry, Donnie. Both of these men are cowards.
Putin's our enemy.
He's literally our enemy. You are funding a war against him.
Do you think he is our... No, you're saying we're his enemy. Do you think Putin is our enemy?
I think it is a tragedy that your policies, specifically yours, helped drive Putin into the arms of China, forming a bloc that's larger than us.
So you won't answer
Gibberish.
that question.
I don't... He is literally...
I can't is what you're looking for. The words you're trying to say is, I can't say that. They pay for this. The whole network. Yeah, it wouldn't happen otherwise. I mean, he's a rich asshole anyways, but that's also part of his bug out plan.
Our enemy right now. That is a tragedy for the United States.
No, you're saying, but you won't say he is our enemy. And look, like I
know in what sense? I don't want to be enemies with Russia. It doesn't help us at all. It may help.
Well, then maybe you're for regime change then. Good God. Again, it would be one thing if these assholes weren't talking about, well, Biden's weakness is what brought on the attack. And both of them are such fucking pusillanimous weasels.
Some people in the United States, but in general,
let me be clear,
I don't want to be.
I don't want to be at war with Russia. I don't think it is in our interest to be at
Russia
war with
aligned
Russia.
with China. That is a disaster.
But listen.
Okay. Does anyone think that's really what Tucker Carlson's concern is? Please. It's fucking embarrassing. How many people are in? What's the population of China, Tucker? What's the ethnic makeup of China? Why should we do business with a country that has 1 million fucking Uyghurs in concentration camps? Why? What are there Russian Chinese people and Chinese Russian people that because the lines were drawn during a fight and they still haven't gotten over it? Do you know anything about this is so stupid. He knows less about Russia than he presumes that Ted Cruz knows about Iran. And he went there and interviewed the leader.
No doubt, and I want Russia and China.
Benny Hill versus Mr. Bean. I like both those people. Tucker and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Dennis Leary needs to moderate these two. Oh my God. Yeah. Here it is. You're an assoli, oli, 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 oli. Shut up, both of you. Hey, I'm gonna whack you one. Sorry. I don't do much of a Dennis Leary, but that'll have to do.
Attention. So I agree with you there. But I think Putin is a KGB thug. I think he is a bad man. Now, I don't want to go to war with him over that. Okay. But I'm not naive. And like I watched your episode.
Like you are, you little... That's where he's going.
Man, he's a bad man. Okay.
Look, I watched your episode where you went to the Russian grocery store. And I'm genuinely...
Was that disloyal, do you think?
It was just weird. It was like a promo video for Russia. And
Again, you're showing weakness, Turd Cruz. Right? You're showing weakness. It was a promo video.
Don't understand. I'm not attacking
Oh my word! Where's the preacher filter? I know.
You when I ask why, because I'm genuinely I don't get
like when you called me and said something. You weren't attacking me. You were just noticing.
No,
but may I ask you a question? So,
diverted. Never went there. Didn't answer the question. Didn't deal with it. Confirmation. As far as I'm concerned, somebody send a clip of this whole thing to both of these dickheads. Confirmation. Tucker Carlson is a Russian stooge, and Ted Cruz knows nothing about any of the issues that he presides over on committee, except yelling about how Biden bad, Trump good.
Well, let me just answer yours by saying the United States, the Biden administration, with your help, full support.
Full support. You like the little jabs? I do.
Began this war on Russia.
Began this war on Russia. Hold on, real quick.
Dum 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 stupid dumb silly stupid dum 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 dopey dippy dum dum stupid really dumb dum 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 dum
began this war on Russia. Jesus.
In response to their invasion of Ukraine. And one of the things they kicked Russia out of SWIFT, out of the international financial system. Yeah. And my first response was, this is going to really hurt the U.S. dollar, which it has. And I hope.
No, it hasn't. The dollar's still worth more than $1 because of what Biden did. No, it hasn't. The dollar is not the problem. And it has nothing to do with inflation. Jesus Christ. You can't say that that's what caused it. If that hurt the dollar, then the overspending after COVID didn't do it. Shut the fuck up. Talk about not knowing anything. Why don't you just lay... I mean, look, I did it. They got me. I got caught up in the actual merits of the conversation. I forgot this is all puppetry. Son of a bitch. And I don't mean that both of them are disingenuously, fighting for what their side together as some sort of smokescreen for Trump. No. They're both bullshitters confronted by, slamming into the crash test dummy wall of bullshit.
Someday. we can have a conversation about that. It's really, really hurt the one thing that we needed, which was to retain dollar supremacy. So I would.
So BRICS is awesome, and the BRICS coin is going to kick our ass. And what are we? And BRICS, once they've gotten together, even though they fucking hate each other, I just saw a Weon, or it wasn't first post. It was first post. It's Padme, the host that used to be on the Indian show, the Weon show, has got her own thing now, and she was talking about like the U.S. dollar against BRICS. Of course, the coalition of the G7, they make less money than the BRICS. But BRICS is not really a thing.
was interested in the economic condition.
By the way, that's a reasonable point and a serious conversation.
I'm aware, and I was.
But I can agree with you.
No. But I was accused of being. I think it's weird that you went to a Russian grocery store.
Yeah, and you didn't answer it. You didn't answer. You diverted to this.
And said it was prosperous. No, my point is
it looked like a commercial. It looked like a commercial. Isn't this wonderful?
It was a commercial.
No, it was an argument against the efficacy of sanctions. Sanctions against Russia, which...
Well, then why didn't you go out into the countryside? Do you think, sorry, in an authoritarian area, do you think in the capital, close to the spots where like leadership lives and works, that's where sanctions are going to, you think that's where the stores are going to be, lacking food, and you think that's where like the expense is going to go up? Or do you think it's going to be out in the Russian equivalent of red states? God damn.
You casually and enthusiastically imposed, scoring a little moral victory every time, had no material effect that helped the United States. Russia is backstopped by China, and I recommend that you go there and see it. It is.
You didn't go there. You went to two fucking cities, the rich areas, surrounded by minders and people who helped you shoot it while you were filming with Vladimir Putin. You didn't go there, motherfucker. And by the way, go to China and pull that shit. Go there where you don't actually have a lead on the leadership. Where you actually can, the leadership is your buddy or thinks they have you on a fishing line. Go. Please fucking go. Do one of these dipshit, pro-China YouTube vlogger trips over there. Oh my God, we don't even have this in America. Like, okay. They don't have any homeless. Mm-hmm, sure. Yep, do that. There's no drug problem. It's amazing. The streets are so clean everywhere I go. I'm basically alone, but...
Way nicer than Washington, D.C. Way nicer. To me, that's a tragedy. I was horrified and angry at my leaders, including you. It's like, I want to live in a country that's nice. So, with low food costs and no homeless people.
All right.
Yeah, can't we scoop them all up in vans and dump them into the fucking river like the Russians and the Chinese do? Why can't we do that, Turd Cruz?
I don't understand why that's too much to ask.
So do
Instead, I get wars with Iran. No, I just want lower food costs. How's that?
So, look, it's a weird argument that you do often, which is, listen, things are crappy in America. Liberals have done bad things to America, so we shouldn't worry about any enemies around the world.
Republican senators.
Republicans
they don't care about us. They're focused on other countries.
You wrote that,
and our country is dying, and you don't care because you're focused on Iran or Putin.
So you believe that I don't care about America? I guess you believe Donald Trump doesn't either. Like nobody cares.
I believe that your focus.
Oh, God. I need some sort of graphic where I'm like roasting a marshmallow or just like popcorn rises up. Like I should have popcorn like on a stand that comes up so I can just.
Focus is way too on other countries.
Yeah, totally. It's way too on other countries. Okay?
It's way too focused outward. The money that you send abroad could be used here and should be.
What money that I send abroad, by the way, I emphatically agree with.
How much did you send to Ukraine? You don't even know.
I emphatically agree with Donald Trump.
Yeah, I think at one point he thought that, it's a rhetorical, the laugh became a way of shutting down the conversation going any further. But he has to, I guess maybe he didn't realize that Ted Cruz is as big an asshole as he is.
Trump's, for example, dramatically slashing USAID. I think the only reason we should be deploying that is to benefit U.S.
By the way, this is the whole, like, why don't we just out-cruel each other seems to be the fallback.
interest, national security
Yeah, Peggy, this is nuts. But it's good nuts. It's good crazy.
interest and keep Americans safe. And so,
How much did you vote to send to Ukraine?
look, you're in about $80 billion.
80 billion.
Yeah.
80
So you're in. You love just giving these broad characterizations that are not accurate.
Yeah, that's the entire basis of the show, stupid. Oh my God, Ted Cruz is waking up. Next thing you know, he'll realize that, oh, maybe Trump isn't on the Epstein list because he, his flight logs as much because more than 7 times because he's got his own plane and he flew to St. Martin all the time and it's just a boat ride to Epstein's Island. Weird. He was friends with him for 25 years, way longer than anybody else on the Democratic side that I seem to, infer all the time that they did terrible shit.
I'm genuinely puzzled. Look, I don't want to go to war with Russia.
I'm genuinely puzzled why a grown man would laugh like this. Like, genuinely. I don't get it. I don't know where that comes from. It's either too much medication or not enough.
But I don't think they're our friend. I think Putin.
I agree.
I think Putin is a murderer.
Not anymore after the way we've treated them. Of course they're not our friend. Would you be our friend if they were mean to you the way you were, Ted Cruz? I wouldn't be friends with us either. I'm not even sure I am. I'm not even sure I love America anymore. I like it, but not that much. And of course I have a lot of money in investment properties all over. Jesus Christ.
I think he's a liar, and I think he does not wish well on America.
Okay.
And I know he's your best friend.
And there's a difference between saying that, just like Reagan referred to the Soviet Union as an evil empire, and Putin was in the KGB. Look, my father was imprisoned and tortured in Cuba. I hate communists. It was actually Batista that tortured my dad. My aunt was imprisoned and tortured by Castro.
Yeah, let's get it right.
Hate communists. I think communism is evil. And so I think there is a value there is nobody who stands up to communist China more in the Senate than I do, because I think they're evil. Do I want to go to war with China? Of course not. That would be ridiculous, but I think we have all sorts of tools to stand up to our enemies. And I think China is engaged in a 1,000-year war against the United States.
Okay.
They're trying.
Did it? The 1,000-year war. Well, I'm glad they think we're going to be around another 750 years, I guess. That's nice, I suppose. They got more faith in us than Tucker does.
We're so all over the map. We're your family in prison in Cuba and China and all this stuff.
Yes, that laugh is what Monty Python would have called a laugh of the upper class twit of the year. JWB, that's exactly right. It's literally like the Cleese character more than... Right.
I agree with you. I'm totally opposed to communism, always have been.
Are you, though? Also, we're not talking about communism, fucko. The USSR died in 1991. Russia is not a communist state. It's a mafia kleptocracy, stupid.
I don't think that Putin loves us. I'm distressed.
Who's us? Do you think he loves you, though? I think he does.
By the moral condition of most leaders around the world, most of them. They all kill people. I'm against that.
Right, generically. They're all responsible for the deaths of other people. Some do it by sanctioned actions that you may or may not disagree with. Other ones hire guys specifically to shotgun an entire family, put the gun in the father's mouth as he's seen his family die and blow his brains out, and then write a suicide note with his dead hand. You know, what? Same diff.
I'm just saying, I wish the focus here was more on the United
say something?
States. That's all I'm-
Yeah, this is the America First fallback. This is the cowards' point of view that they throw. This, by the way, this is the exact same. This is where America First came from before World War II. This is exactly what this is.
I actually don't agree with that statement. They all kill people. There's a moral relativism. So I don't think Donald Trump is a murderer. He doesn't kill people. We don't have
calling
concentration
Donald
camps.
Trump a murderer.
Yeah, you are. You're equating him with what Russia does, and it's samey same, motherfucker.
You just said world leaders all kill people, and there's a moral relativism.
I'm hardly a moral relativist.
But you are. That statement was the essence of...
Ouch. First, you call him a neocon, and then he calls you a moral relativist, when both of you are just plain douchebags. Can't we all get along in agreeing that both of these dickheads are equally useless as human beings. I'm just enjoying the catfight.
A Semite, an isolationist, a moral relativist. I'm okay. No, I'm not.
Did you just say
I'm
world
saying-
leaders all kill
I'm saying
people?
I'm against killing people in general.
In general. Okay, when are you... So what? So is everybody, asshole. When are you for it specifically? Tucker's high. You may be right. I mean, I would argue that there's probably... He definitely has, he overdoes it on the nicotine pouches, right? We know he's gacked on them all the time. And then he probably takes something to take the edge off so he's not chirpy, and that's where the laugh comes from. Or he could just be nuts.
So,
And hyperventilating about how Putin was in the KGB or whatever. I just want to...
Hyperventilating about it. He just called you a bitch, Ted Cruz.
serve American interests, and pushing into China is not in our interest at all. And you helped do it, and you haven't apologized. And you
that's
should.
good. And by the way, you're the cheerleader. I helped drive him into China.
You
It's
did.
a complete lie.
You funded the war against him.
No, I authored the legislation.
Again, I don't want to gloss over this. Tucker Carlson always says the war against Russia. Russia invaded Ukraine. Think how diluted and fucked up you have to be to constantly refer to a war against Russia when Russia started it. We didn't fund a war against Russia. We funded a war to defend Ukraine. We even need, I would argue, another fucking word for war, because this was just an attack.
That shut down Nord Stream 2 that prevented the war. And if Trump had still been in the White House, we would have had the war. And
Gibberish.
And look, the comment you made, the reason things like moral relativism are so dangerous, oh, everyone kills people. No, there is a difference. The
hardly
United
a
States,
moral relativism.
we don't have concentration camps. We don't torture and murder people. You look at China, where they've got 1 million prisoners in concentration.
Just remember I told you about like singular facts, and then they will throw them into a wood chipper, and what they will come up with is, is anybody's guess.
Can't you look at Putin, where he's got prisoners in Siberia? He tortures and murders his political opponents. Donald Trump doesn't do that.
That's not. Do you think that's going to actually bend Tucker Carlson? Do you think that's going to actually teach him anything? What you need to say to Tucker Carlson is that Putin rewards his friends for the most egregious, horrifying, inhuman things, including those who run interference for him, and then leave that at his doorstep. Why am I advising Ted Cruz? I apologize.
America doesn't do that. And by the way,
What are you
most
even
other
talking
countries
about?
don't do that.
I see the game. It's like, I'm
No,
distressed.
you're the one playing a game.
I'm distressed.
No, I'm responding with facts. You don't like the facts.
I don't even know what facts you're talking about. I'm not saying that Trump puts people in concentration camps. I campaign for Trump. I love Trump.
So did I.
Okay. So this has nothing to do with Trump. I'm merely saying,
When you said every world leader kills people, it puts
just
them
want
all
more
in the
emphasis on what's happening inside the country. That's it.
Is there a
That's
moral
it.
difference
Inside which country? Okay, I script lost.
between America and our enemies? Is there
Are
a
you
moral difference between
joking? Of
America?
course.
And what is it? Articulate it.
I'm
It's
American.
valuable to say why. Why are we a better country founded on better values than China?
I'll tell
What's
you.
the
I'll
difference?
tell you why.
And I know
Because the whole purpose of America is to protect the God-given rights that each person possesses by virtue of being created by God.
Amen.
By being human.
Right, and none of the ones created by rule of law. This is an important part right here. This is where the only point where they really had a solid agreement. He said, amen. Okay, the God-given rights. So the God-given rights don't involve the kind of stuff that society's put together. Adam and Eve were not born under a shelter. Adam and Eve, when they were cast out of the garden, didn't get health care after that. You see what I'm saying? Do you understand where they tried to take that? And this applies to like all the arguments that these kind of assholes put in. It's actually very valuable view of how these guys work and operate, and the people like them work and operate, because they don't view any of these things, those kind of things, the stuff that societal protections like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, any of that stuff, or homeless shelters, any of that shit. That's not a God-given right. That's the actions of man, and you can disagree with it or even shut it down. As a matter of fact, God, whatever you say about Adam and Eve, he didn't build them a house, did he? They didn't even have a shelter. That's up to you guys. It's an important distinction. This is a sales pitch.
That's the point of our founding documents. And
No, it isn't.
no other country articulates that in
The point of our founding documents is basically to pick up slack for the natural rights that that are there that need protecting, and the rights that are created around a philosophical idea of the value of society, of how we would take care of those lesser than us in a material sense. It was the politics of it. It wasn't just a fucking like goals list they wrote out. It was a material document to carry out those goals. You fucking moron.
the way that we do. And that's what I love about America. My family's been here a long time. I'm never leaving. So I really love the country. Despite
Because I said so.
going to a Russian grocery store, despite asking you questions about AIPAC, I love America is the truth. And I love Trump. So, but I just want more emphasis on America. That's it.
That's not true at all, by the way. Just saying. If he wanted more emphasis on America, he would champion things like dealing with homelessness, drug addiction, rising healthcare costs, rising house prices, all that kind of stuff. He doesn't care. Democrats do that. Democrats are more focused on the citizenry of the United States than these assholes. It's performative bullshit. Yeah, none of that is true, what he just said. Because he's never, ever displayed that. Isolationism isn't enough. I'm not going to buy it just because you think we shouldn't go to war overseas or something, that somehow makes you care more about the United States. Democrats care more about the United States. You know how I know? Because Joe Biden spent his entire presidency planting trees he will never sit under the shade of. He set the system in place where we would remove lead pipes, where we would build infrastructure, where we would rebuild schools all across this country. The first infrastructure bill in 25 fucking years. And his budget was so good, the Republicans filed a CR because they know they can't beat it. No, you can't say you're America first just because you want to retreat in the world. That's not enough. It's cowardice. I want to see you actually give a shit about American citizens. If you think we need voter ID, we need to make sure every citizen has an ID or a way to vote legally where they never have to worry about it, because you're a fucking citizen and it's your right. It's in the Constitution. It is up to us in the Senate and the House and everywhere else to make sure you have that right and you can trust it, right? Not, we need a voter ID so we can keep all these illegals from voting when they fucking aren't, when you're really just trying to drive down the number of people voting because you know you can only win when the voting count is low. It is not enough to call yourself America first because you just want to abandon the rest of the world. I don't see anywhere where these motherfuckers are worried about the VA in any reality, where they're worried about people needing health care at all. Piss off. Oh, hi, Jen. Thank you. I'm so glad you're here too. Thank you.
I emphatically agree with America first. I think Donald Trump does as well.
And yeah, it's a phrase. Again, by the way, hold on. If I may.
The Michael J. Fox Foundation launched in 2000.
I think that's lovely. Hold on. There you go. I got to find a cleaner version of is allowed. The ugly origins of Trump's America First policy. In 2016, he used the term, blah, blah, blah. This approach is remarkable because over the past century, America First has acquired some very unsavory connotations. Although it seemed innocent slogan goes back deep in American history, it began to develop a racist and anti-Semitic and xenophobic tone after World War I. The Ku Klux Klan, which surged to some 5 million members at the time, employed it frequently for its terrorist mobilizations. Like the Klan, nativist groups took up America First as they used racist, eugenicist claims to press successfully for the U.S. government restrictions on immigration, appealing to it, which, by the way, great replacement theory anywhere? Right, okay. Like the Klan, nativist group took up America First as they used racist. Okay, Appealing to an overheated nationalism, William Randolph Hearst used his newspaper empire to campaign. We just talked about that with Phil this morning. To campaign successfully against U.S. participation in the League of Nations. Soon thereafter, he became a booster of nationalist fanatics, the rising fascist powers. Hearst newspapers, with America First emblazoned on their masthead, celebrated what they called the great achievement of the new Nazi regime in Germany in 1934. Let's see if they've got a cover on one of these. Nope, they just go to him. Okay. I wish they had an image of it. I'll see if I can find one. Chat room, hold on. Hearst newspaper, America First image. Where is it? The New York Journal, Citizen Hearst. These are all artwork. Let's see, the war on yellow papers. Wilson clears you as no ministry. Spain guilty. Oh, it's just I'm okay. America. The problem with America First as a phrase. Hold on. Let me see if I can find this link. J'accuse. All right, now it's going into Google sucks. I will find these. Okay, the first committee, maybe that's it. Yeah, here you go. This is the America First committee. Wikipedia. This is the conservative leadership. See if here's a image of them. Hold on one second. Plus. There we go. This guy right here. America First rally. This time, let's stay out of Europe's war. Make America safe for democracy. Philip LaFollette of Wisconsin, John T. Flynn of New York, April 4th, 8 p.m. at the Municipal Auditorium. Everyone joined from the auspices of the America First Committee. America First, folks. A rally to rally everybody who's rallying. Trump didn't invent America First. He didn't come up with it at all. And as a matter of fact, it gained his attention through Stephen Miller and others as a way of keeping us. Oh, my God, Jen. Thank you so much. Thank you. Here you go. Hold on. Back to these dipshits.
And I think his foreign policy.
By the way, this is the end of this. They've got like 30 seconds left or something like that. Maybe less.
Has been vigorously protecting that. And I agree with the president.
Good. Well, I appreciate your taking all this time.
Sure.
And I know you didn't mean it. When you call me those names. Thank you, Senator.
I know you didn't mean it when you called me those names. Right. Because we're both bullshitters. That's why he said that. Because like everything else.
That was just bullshit, Joel.
Uh-huh. Now, real quick, there are... Do I have time for... Yeah, I do. Okay. That was a long one, but I think valuable because it not only gave you a picture of where the MAGA fight is actually happening, and you could see how they manipulate the language around it and shape everything that they say in a way that manipulates their own specific audiences. Remember, Ted Cruz has a shitty little podcast too. Anyway, so yes, it was very weird and creepy. Jesus.